All right, what's going on,
What's
guys?
going on?
Welcome back to the Opinion City podcast, a professional wrestling podcast where we debate the hottest topics of the past, present, future, and beyond. We are your hosts. My name is Ralph Heinmarch.
And I am Parmesan Russell.
As always, this podcast is for you, the listeners, and we love hearing your opinions. So please reach out to us via email at opinion.citypod@gmail.com.
Before we go any further, if you want to support our show, you can follow us at Opinion City Pod on all the socials. You can find the links to everything that we do over there. You can follow myself at Parmesan. You can follow Ralph over here at Real Ralph 316. If you like what you're hearing, don't be a stranger. Please like, rate, review our show. Let us know what you think because we would love to hear from you. Without further ado, let's get down to this week's episode.
All right, so right off the bat, we'll just get right into it. This is take number 2 this week for us. There were some technical difficulties here at the Mancast Network studios, and we're
It
hoping that
happens.
all of
It's
we're
all
hoping
good.
that all of that has been taken care of. And so now we're presenting this Monday night edition of Opinion City,
Mm-hmm.
almost an Opinion City after dark,
Yep.
if you will. So, but we got a lot of things to talk about tonight. So, Sean, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know what we've got on tap for this episode of Opinion City?
Later on in the show, we will have our main event topic, which is our top 5 Undertaker Mania matches of all time. It is
Mhm.
spooky season, so we thought let's start the spooky season off right with a little bit of Taker action.
Yeah.
But current events wise, we have a lot to go over because there were the crossovers have happened between AEW and WWE. We have AEW versus NXT tomorrow night, which will be
Mhm.
a doozy. And it's just a lot is going on, Ralph. And I have to ask you your opinion because you are the man with the opinions and the man with the Christian Cage fandom. I have to ask you your thoughts on the Edge debut as well as your thoughts on that Christian promo from Dynamite on Wednesday.
All right. So, let's start right off the bat. Let's talk about Edge's debut. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
the big moment at Wrestle Dream. You know, there was a lot of discussion ahead of time about, you know, why is the TNT title going on last? Why aren't we getting a world title match? All these different things, and obviously now we all know why we went with the TNT Championship match because it was all a setup for Edge to show up, which we should have seen coming. I
Yeah.
didn't. I was 100% surprised. I did not see it coming. I will say, and you and I have talked off camera about this, but I would have done Edge's intro a little differently, his
Yeah.
debut.
Mhm.
But in any manner, I think it definitely did what it needed to do. I like the little tease where it could have possibly been him and Christian, and then
Yeah.
he starts swinging the chair and taking out Nick Wayne and Luchasaurus, and I
Yep.
like all of that. I will say, you know, I feel like that was a good tease and a good lead into what we got on Dynamite from Edge, which,
Oh,
listen, so um, the thing with Edge was great. I love the fact that Edge was pushing for an Edge and Christian reunion, one last run, because
yeah.
you and I have talked about that, and you were the
That'd
one
be
that
like
brought up
the
like,
dream way to go. Yeah, that would be the dream way to go is have, one last tag team run with ENC, and then
mhm,
you have your idea, which is have both of them have their song match together, 1-on-1,
yeah.
and then that's it. They're done.
Yeah, and I really think that that's eventually what we're going to get to. I think we'll probably have enough of a lead up where, we're going to see Edge and Christian at odds with each other for a while. I think
Yeah.
eventually we're going to have, it's going to be one of those things where it's going to be kind of like out of sight, out of mind for a long time, and then all of a sudden, Christian's going to need saving or Edge is going to need saving, and one of the other two is going to show up, and it's just,
Yeah.
there I think there's going to be a good build up to it, though. I don't think we're going to see it for a while yet because I think, at least in my mind, I think what they're planning on doing is really doing Edge and Christian, really hanging it up together, like
Right.
having a double retirement match.
Yeah.
So I don't think Christian's ready for that because Christian is 100% firing on all cylinders.
Oh, he is
Christian
crushing
is
it right now.
Yeah,
Crushing it.
Christian is killing it for his age, for how long he's been in the business, for everything that he's doing. He is just absolutely killing it. And I know that Tony Khan has been talking about all the matches Edge is going to be having, how he's going to be on Dynamite and Collision and all these shows, and you're going to see him wrestle more than you've seen him wrestle in a long time. And I think they're doing that to kind of hold off for a little while, because not only do I think, Christian's still got a lot left in the tank, I think Edge is really excited about kind of moving forward and, getting back to a more full-time schedule.
Yeah.
He brought up all the names that he's never wrestled before. And I think that there's some really interesting, matchups there. For me personally, I cannot wait to see Edge and Samoa Joe in a program.
Oh, that's going to be so good. I was hoping that they would do it, but, maybe release Joe not once, but twice. So,
another
right there.
another situation where they just didn't know what to do with a guy who can clearly go out there and still wrestle and still give it his all.
Promo from Dynamite in the suit, which is a reference to a later show, but if you haven't seen that Twitter video, watch that Twitter video as well. But yeah, his promo in the suit and calling those shots was just so good.
Oh, it was incredible. It really was. And I was thinking about this, and when Edge was naming names, one of the names that he threw out there, which I was a little surprised by, but I also think that it's an opportunity to elevate somebody who was to a point used correctly in WWE, then completely misused, then brought over to AEW and misused again. And I'm talking about Miro.
Oh, yeah.
Because he brought up Miro's name, and I'm like, thinking about it now, I'm just thinking to myself, like, that could be an amazing program, because I feel like Miro's been kind of lost since he's gone to AEW.
Yeah, I loved his run as the champion for a while. That was a really awesome run. I do enjoy his Redeemer gimmick. I just hope they find a story with it, because right now it seems like they're kind of getting into it with him and Lana. I mean, CJ Perry.
Yeah.
I just don't know where they're going with that yet. I guess they're going to go against each other for now. I don't really know. I digress. But yeah, I have a theory, and I wonder your take on this one. I think, what if they wait until next year's All In, have it in that huge crowd, and that's where you do Edge versus Christian? You build that long of a build up. Have it in that big of a crowd.
I would be okay with that long of a buildup. I think my big thing right now is that, as much as I want to see, as much as I want to see, this Edge and Christian thing be really big, like, and All In too, like, All In again over in Wembley, doing it again. That's a huge way to do it. And I think that aspect of it, I think, would be great. My thing is, I feel like if we're going to do this, I feel like we've got to do it. We've got to do it in Toronto. I don't see any other options.
No, absolutely. Because that's where Edge wanted to retire in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, instead of doing it somewhere big, they decide, hey, we'll do a random SmackDown in Toronto and you face Sheamus. And that'll be your match. Which, don't get me wrong, it was a great match, and Edge said that was a great moment for him.
Well,
but it should have been in a much bigger setting than a random SmackDown.
Yeah, I mean, and the build up to that was good, because at least there was a story behind him and Sheamus. Right. There was a connection there that made it the right choice for the time. But I feel like, I feel like we're gonna have to. I think it's gotta be somewhere like Toronto that is as much a part of their story as anything else is. So I'm hoping that, is as much as I'd love to see it in Wembley, and who knows? We could see when we finally get to Edge and Christian, because I think they're going to hold that off for as long as they can.
Yeah, give it that proper build up that it deserves.
But I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get a series of matches out of them. So the first one could be at All In Wembley.
Yeah.
There's no reason why not. The second one could be at All Out in Chicago, and then who knows? We could have a little bit of breathing period before we come back round, to round two. Like, Edge takes one, Christian takes another, and then we've got this rubber match that we're never quite sure we're going to see, and then we get this huge, yeah, and then you get the huge build up to the double retirement.
Yeah,
I think
no,
it's
I think
genius.
that would be if me and you were bookers. That's how I would book it. Exactly how I would book it.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
That would be genius.
Yeah. So,
Moving over to the WWE side,
oh, yes.
we saw the tease of a debut of Jade Cargill at Fastlane. Quick appearance that she arrived at she was backstage at the arena.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw this question at you. What are your thoughts on what feud she might start with, and where do you think show she's gonna go first? I don't think NXT, but where do you think?
Okay. So, a couple things. One, I think while her showing up at the pay-per-view was good, I think it was a missed opportunity because I think they should have done more with her. She shouldn't have just showed up in the back and shook Triple H's hand. I feel like, Io Sky wins her match and Io Sky's music is playing, and all of a sudden the music cuts, lights go out. We see, a Titantron hit. We see some music hit. Jade Cargill comes out and she kind of stands there and, stares down Io Sky. And, I think there should have been more to it. So I'm not really thrilled with necessarily how they went about, because you only get one shot to put her on TV the first time. I mean, think about what WWE with did with Chris Jericho the first time they put him on TV.
That's
you know what I mean?
One of the best debuts of all time, hands down.
Yeah, so you only really get one shot for that. As far as a feud goes, I don't know. I would not be surprised, because from what I'm hearing, I think the goal is going to be her and Bianca Belair. So I'm thinking that they may try and tease that a little bit at the beginning. As far as where she's going to end up, from the way I understand things, is that WWE is pretty much very soon going to, acknowledge just the end of the brand split nonsense. Like they're not even gonna
brand split.
Well, exactly, but I mean,
as soon as it started,
they're gonna actually acknowledge on TV that, like, hey, the brand split is done. Because they still had delusions of the brand split, like, Jey Uso coming to Raw, and then there's all this talk about, like, well, who's SmackDown gonna get in exchange for him? Well, who cares? Anybody could just show up, so what does it matter?
Exactly.
But I'm thinking they're officially it sounds like they're gonna officially acknowledge it and end it soon, and that's gonna be that. However, it'll be interesting to see where that leaves titles, number one. But from what I understand, Jade Cargill is pretty much just gonna show up anywhere. She's gonna be kind of bouncing back and forth between Raw and SmackDown, which is fine, because I mean, there's so many possibilities for first time matches. I would honestly, and just thinking about, like, who I think she would match up well with, who I'd want to see her with, because we've talked at length about my feelings about Bianca Belair. Unless they're gonna change something, I don't want to see
how we feel about Bianca Belair on this show.
I don't want to see her with anybody unless they're going to change something. So I think that a really good feud straight out of the box for Jade Cargill would be Natalya.
Okay, I mean, yeah, I can see that, because again,
I think they would work well together. Natalya has been around forever. Natalya can pretty much work a decent match with anybody, and I think she would be able to be that sort of figure to get Jade Cargill into the routine of the WWE system, how WWE does things. I mean, I could see them having, a decent run at house shows where, she's just learning from Natalya left and right.
Yeah.
So that's my thought.
I can see that being
I don't know what
first opponent. I think for her, if they are going to be making her the rocket strapper that she clearly is, she cannot lose a match. She cannot lose a match. She needs to be dominant as she was in AEW. They need to just have her literally like a storm and just wreck the house.
I agree with that. My only problem with that is, think about, I feel like if they do that with her, that they're just going to end up ruining her then, Because look what they did with Asuka. Like they had her as the unstoppable monster who couldn't be beat, and then when they didn't know what to do with her, they really didn't know what to do with her. Like when they didn't know where to go with that other than just like her winning every single match all the time, they didn't know what to do. So I'm concerned that if they do that with Jade Cargill, they might not know what to do with her after.
I'm not necessarily starting to give her a streak, but like don't have her like win her first two and then lose the rest. Like give her a decent run with some wins before she makes like her first fumbles and losses.
Well, I think
Like make her look strong the entire time.
well, sure, because I think that fans are going to be. I think fans are going to be on board with her because I think fans are going to know who she is.
Right.
I don't think this is one of those like signings from another company where like they 2 out of every 7 people know who she is. I think a lot of people are going to know who she is, but they still need to. I think, like you said, they need to make her look strong because they need to build the legitimacy for her. Because even though a lot of people may know who she is from AEW, a lot of people might not be familiar with her work. They might not have seen a whole lot of her. Obviously, having a consistent streak for her works for her character. I mean, it worked great in AEW.
Great in AEW, yeah.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. I think that's exactly what they need to do with her because she needs to come out of the gate strong because you can't have somebody like that they built up to the point where her signing was announced on ESPN and she's shaking hands with Triple H after a pay-per-view. Like you can't have somebody that's that big that they're putting that much into and then just have her show up and like she shows up 1 week and loses to Cora Jade and
exactly.
nothing against Cora Jade, but like they do things with her that aren't going to make sense for a character that they've built up that much.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, I hope the best for her. I really hope that she does go to the moon because she deserves it. I know she's still new and she's still green, but she chose one of the best training centers to train at to become better. So I mean, I think she chose what the right choice is for her.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
So we got to talk about tomorrow because tomorrow is now getting to absurd levels of ridiculousness. I'm talking about the first time in a while AEW versus NXT Tuesday Night Wars. We have Tuesday Night Dynamite going up against NXT, and they decided to absolutely stack NXT for just to be petty, in my opinion, because they added Cena, they added Cody's making an announcement, Heyman's going to be in Braun Breaker's corner, Cena's going to be in Hayes' corner. They have been teasing Taker's going to be there. Yes, I said it. The Undertaker's going to be there. So I don't know what the heck they expect out of this Tuesday. Ralph, what is going on, man?
All right, so think about it. Think about it this way. Let's say that you're an NFL team, right. And let's say that as an NFL team, you were really, really good last season, but this season you were not able to keep the majority of your roster. So you just had to sign whoever you could. And things are going okay. You're coasting along fine, but now you're about to go up against like your big rival, the big team that is just your 100% rival. They're doing phenomenal throughout the season. They're firing on all cylinders, and you have the opportunity now before you go into that match to sign a couple big names, to bring them in, put them in the system, and really go at it. You're going to do that. And I think what this is I think they know how bad things went before when NXT and AEW were up against each other. It was a decimation. And so
one week. That was it.
Yeah, and I honestly don't think WWE wants to take any chances right now. Number one, you've got TKO behind everything. So TKO is not going to take kindly to getting trounced in the ratings right after the purchase goes through and all these things happen. Secondly, as I understand it, and I don't know if you've been seeing the reports as well, but the talk now is that Vince McMahon is 100% out of creative. Like Triple H,
I did see that.
H has full control.
That Triple H now has full control over creative, and
so that's not confirmed.
Vince may still put in input, but at the end of the day, it's Triple H's say.
Right, and this hasn't been officially confirmed yet. These are still rumors, but from internal sources,
Grain of
that's
salt.
the way things are. So I'm thinking, you know, especially since this isn't a regular occurrence, this is something that was necessitated by the baseball playoffs on TBS.
Yep.
That AEW had to move Dynamite, and I mean, think about it. This is like, you know, this is like if WCW put Monday Nitro up against Velocity.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, seriously,
Exactly.
just think about it. And again, nothing against NXT, but
Nothing.
NXT is not Raw. NXT is not SmackDown. NXT is NXT.
Yeah.
So you have to have there has to be some sensibility in all of this. I mean, if you think about it, okay, let me put it to you this way. So AEW and NXT are up against each other on a Tuesday night.
Yep.
And NXT, you know what NXT is, you know what NXT's got going on. You know what is happening on NXT, but you also know what AEW is. So what could NXT honestly do to make you watch NXT instead of AEW? If you could only watch one of them.
I mean, I guess what they're doing now is adding all these big names that we know.
Yeah.
Like Cena against,
Yeah.
I mean, Cena in Hayes' corner against Braun in Heyman's corner. You have Cody's major announcement. You have Asuka versus Roxanne Perez. Literally bringing in every big name you can think of that was in NXT or not, like Cena and Cody. It's just crazy to me because I feel like even though Triple H said at the press conference that he's so happy that Edge is there, good for him.
Sure.
I'm proud of him. His first match is that Tuesday, and they're like, all right, let's stack every big name on top of that show.
Yeah, but I mean,
and
you also
get the Undertaker on NXT. Like, you have to pull that trigger and bring back the Undertaker for one night.
Yeah,
it just seems like a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I guess my big thing would be you have to look at it's not just AEW that's necessitating this. I mean, think about how things have been going. Think about how great it's been to have like Baron Corbin down there. Think about how great it's been to have Becky Lynch down there, Dom Mysterio. Like,
really
bringing in those names have really sort of shown them how well that works.
Yeah.
So to really put the rub on people, I mean, to me, like a guy like John Cena going down there, to me, is no different than John Cena showing up at WrestleMania and putting over Austin Theory.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
very much the same. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, and I think this the thing that nobody I think is really talking about, at least, I mean, they're bringing it up, but I don't think they're talking about it as much as some of the other names. I think it's really interesting that Paul Heyman is going to NXT, and I find it really interesting to see what that's going to mean for Paul Heyman moving forward, because, here we have a guy, I mean, is Paul Heyman trying to hitch his wagon to somebody in case the bloodline falls apart?
I mean, that's not a bad plan. That's not
because then, because then if the bloodline goes away, he's got nothing else to do on the main roster. He's really got no one else at this point. So, if the bloodline goes away, he's got to have a backup plan. Because I mean, the way it's going, it could all be over tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like,
can I just say, I know last week we spoke about how Reigns is like the centerpiece of the saga right now.
Yeah.
But my hats are off to Heyman, man. Heyman's segments with Jimmy and Solo, and how he's trying to reel him in, but he can't. It's probably some of my favorite Heyman stuff that he's been doing. He's just trying to save what remnants he has left for Reigns, and he's just struggling. He's struggling so hard, and you can see they finally had him stop dyeing his hair, so now he's just gray from probably all the stress of Jimmy and Solo without Reigns being there. It's just great stuff. Great stuff.
I think my favorite Heyman moment was when when Jimmy was talking to different members of the Judgment Day, and Heyman was just like lurking in the background, like kind of peering over boxes and like looking over and like, he's just
Yeah,
got this like concerned look on his
yeah.
walrus face, and
It's
he's
the
like, whoa,
Heyman right now
whoa,
is just
like,
a ball of stress, but it's the best ball of stress on TV ever.
oh, it's
And
phenomenal.
I
I
love
love it.
the call Roman Reigns bit every time. Gets me every time.
Yeah, I find it funny because I saw like the memes online about how Roman Reigns must not have a WWE Network
I did
subscription
see that. I did
because
see that.
Paul
Yeah,
Heyman's doing play by play for him.
I did see that. Yeah,
Like stuff like that is just,
like
yeah, it's great.
I could listen to Heyman literally all day. Like Heyman's just one of my.
Yeah,
If he does not go down as one of the best, if not the best manager of all time, I mean, ugh.
if you don't know anything about Paul Heyman and you haven't seen the My Name is Paul Heyman documentary that WWE did,
Oh,
hunt
so
that down and check it out because
so good.
he's just, I mean, you will be shocked at the life he's lived. You will be shocked at the wrestling life that he had even before he really officially got in the business as a promoter or a manager.
Right.
Just the taking pictures, and when he talks about some of the moments that he was present for, like listening to Dusty Rhodes, like he's like listening to Dusty Rhodes at an NWA meeting, like talking to promoters, and he's just like in the corner like a fly
Yeah.
on the wall. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just incredible. You can't pay for experience like that. You can't.
No.
It just it yeah, he's really good.
Like I said, right now Heyman is sort of the glue that's keeping the bloodline together right
Yeah.
now. Because again, I think
Yeah.
without his reactions to everything,
Mhm.
it's just, I don't know. It's just I'm very excited to see on Friday how it all goes with the and I quote season premiere of
Mhm.
SmackDown, which again I don't understand why they even say it because it never ends.
Yeah. Yeah. Um and you were talking about big announcements on Tuesday, and big things happening on Tuesday. There's another piece of interesting information that's coming down on Tuesday, and I don't really know exactly what it is. There's been some speculation, but
Okay.
Busted Open has a big announcement coming tomorrow, and Dave LaGreca has
Oh,
been
geez.
teasing that this big announcement is related to Busted Open 24/7, the hashtag that they've been
Ooh.
trying to get
Ooh.
going. So
Okay.
I don't
Okay.
I don't know for sure what this is, but
That's exciting.
that's happening during
Yes.
Busted Open tomorrow. So definitely a
Check
day
that
to
out.
yeah, definitely a day to listen in. And I will say, so we've talked a little bit about heels on this show.
Yes.
We've talked a little bit about what was going on with the whole cancel stars thing, and I gotta say, if you have a chance, last Wednesday, Mike O'Malley, who is a showrunner on Heels, he also played the quote unquote heel promoter of the Florida Wrestling Dystopia group,
Right.
Charlie Gully. He was on the show, and you
Okay.
can get this on the Busted Open podcast as well. They have his interview on the Busted Open podcast if you are not a SiriusXM subscriber. And I got to say, I listened to his interview where he talks about heels, and he talks about why things happened the way they did, why the show ended up the way it did. Just what they're thinking about in the future. But one of the interesting things that he brought up, and this has kind of caused a little bit of change in the way that people are, I think, looking at this. But he brought up the fact that like this whole cancel stars thing, he doesn't really want to see anybody from stars lose their job, or
I
the
mean,
the
no.
program get like stars get canceled, because he went on to talk about like this is his second project at Stars and what it's like to work for Stars, and there were just a lot of things that happened outside of their purview and things that they could control. And he talked about how he's come up with this just realizing that he cannot emotionally react to things that he has no control over.
Right.
But there's a lot of interesting things about why things happened the way they did with the show, and there is a lot of hope for the future. They're looking to shop it around and get picked up somewhere else, and I would honestly be surprised if they didn't. Which they talked about, like, if they got picked up by another streaming service, it would probably give them the opportunity to take like seasons 1 and 2 with them from Stars.
I
But
mean, yeah.
but the interesting thing about it was, now he brought up the hashtag Save Heels, which is kind of what's been going around now.
Right.
And the interesting thing he brought up about it, though, when during the conversation, it was brought up that Stars has already pulled heels from their programming.
Oh, wow.
Like, Busted Open was telling everyone that they could possibly tell to go check out Stars. You can't even do that now.
That's crazy.
Like, they pulled it from you can't get Stars at all now. So, or I mean, you can't get heels on Stars at all now. So just some interesting developments there, but really you should go and check out that interview with Mike O'Malley. It's on the Busted Open podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
Definitely check that out.
Yeah, so, it's a great interview.
If they are going to be able to move somewhere, where would you like to see them go, or where do you think you'll see them go?
Honestly, right now, I think there's two real good possibilities. I think Netflix, for one, because Netflix has shown that they have a history of valuing professional wrestling, because they've had, not only have they had wrestlers, they did the Glow series, which the drama series. They ran the Glow documentary. So I think at one point they had another wrestling promotion on there, Lucha Underground.
Well, before the network came around, a lot of wrestling movies and shows were on Netflix.
Yeah. So they have a history with professional wrestling. So I would not be surprised if they get in the mix somehow. However, I also would not be surprised if Hulu gets in the mix. And I say this because I say this because Hulu obviously is in major competition with Netflix and doesn't really have anything like a big wrestling property like that. The other thing, though, is that I believe Hulu has a good relationship with Stars, so I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, and honestly, I mean, you could say Amazon Prime as well. Like, the three of those, I think, are your top
good options.
Major players, I think, that would step up, because Amazon Prime had season 1 of Heels on Amazon Prime. Now, Amazon Prime also, you can add Stars as a subscription channel to Amazon Prime, but if you had Amazon Prime, you didn't need that Stars subscription to watch season 1 of Heels. Now, I don't think season 1 of Heels is on there anymore. I think season 1 of Heels, I think that was removed. It expired right before season 2 came out, but it's interesting to note that season 2 was finished filming in July of 22 and did not premiere until July of 23.
Oh, wow.
So there was like a huge gap. And actually, I think it was June of 22. I think they said it was 13 months between when they wrapped filming and when it debuted. So there was a huge gap in there. So there was a lot of time to catch up on season 1 before season 2 came out. Right now, I don't think you can find it anywhere. I think it's in the abyss.
You have to either buy the DVD or just find it somewhere.
Yeah, season 1 is on DVD. I don't know anything about season 2. I don't know if that'll be out on DVD. But it's if you did not get a chance to see it, it was an amazing show. And here's hoping that that finds a home. Here's hoping that Wrestlers gets renewed. Here's hoping that Monster Factory finds a home.
I was going to say, speaking of places that need saving, if you haven't watched the Monster Factory series on Apple TV Plus, I implore you to go watch it. It is a much different take on wrestling than you would think from the Wrestlers and everything other show. I'm not saying Wrestlers is bad. I watched both. Wrestlers is also very good, but there's something about the Monster Factory that just hits different. And no, this is not an ad for WWE 2K23. It just hits differently. It's a different feel. It feels more intimate. Like, it feels like you're watching their journeys rather than talking about their journeys. Like
Hmm.
it's just made so well. It's only 6 episodes, half hour long each, but they're
Yeah.
just perfect little nuggets of what wrestling is like behind the curtain, but it feels more real.
Yeah, and you and I were having this conversation off the air, but Netflix tends to have a more, and this goes right along with the rest of Netflix documentary series. They seem to have a more stylized, overproduced sort of dramatic feel to them
Yeah.
rather than maybe necessarily the realism you'd hope to see out of a docu-series. So
Yeah.
yeah, definitely, do whatever you can. I know Apple TV has a 7-day free trial, so uh you said they're 6 half-hour episodes,
Yep.
so honestly you could knock that out in a day and spend the other 6 days checking out Apple TV uh
Yep.
originals and
Yeah.
whatnot. But for that matter, you could watch Monster Factory 7 days in a row.
Yeah, you can literally
Like,
watch it over and over. I mean,
yeah,
it,
just
it
keep
is
watching.
honestly that good where I can just rewatch it over and over again. It's just
Yeah, I get
again,
that way about wrestling
yeah,
stuff. Like,
it's just really, really good stuff.
yeah. So, yeah, that's it's been a really interesting week. There's a lot going on. There's still a lot to happen this week. You know.
Oh, here's a thought.
Okay.
That because I know we both feel very different about this. This is Opinion City
Oh.
after all, so we have very different opinions.
Oh boy.
Uh, I have to bring it up from Saturday's AEW Collision when Big Bill and Ricky Starks became the new AEW Tag Team Champions, and by Ralph's reaction alone, you know which side he's on versus what side I'm on.
All right. So before I get into what side I'm on, I need to make one thing very clear because I don't think this was made clear when you and I had the conversation. I have nothing personally against Big Bill. I have nothing against his journey, his everything he's gone through in his wrestling career to get to this point where he's now, like winning his first title. Like, I have nothing against any of that. That's not where I'm at with this. Where I'm at with this is I feel like when you have a team like FTR
Right.
who was in the conversation for greatest tag team of all time, has had incredible matches with the Young Bucks
Mm-hmm.
in that in the vein of determining who's the best tag team ever. When you have the title run that they've had, everything that they've done to build those characters to where they are, no matter what's going on, and between the time that you and I had the conversation, there's some more information that's come out. But
Okay.
as I understand it, the reason that things happened, why they did, was because Cash Wheeler got injured very early on,
Yeah.
uh, and in their last match, and so the fact that he was wrestling at all was a big deal.
Yeah.
Because he was very hurt, and so, anyways, to me, if you're gonna have FTR drop the titles, you are not going to do it in a 5-minute match on Collision against a thrown together tag team. I'm sorry. That what that actually does is that it does less for Big Bill and Ricky Starks, and it does less to put them over, and it does more to bury FTR. I do not believe for a single second, after watching the entire tag team title run of FTR and the fact that they went over on the Bucks, all of these things, none of that says to me that these are two guys who should be dropping the tag titles in a 5-minute match on Collision to two guys who have just been thrown together as a tag team. And
Yeah.
nothing against those guys, nothing against Collision. I just don't see it. I don't see that that's the way that you do it. Not when you have other opportunities to do it in a better way that does not at the same time do more to bury FTR than it does to elevate someone else. And
Right.
those are my concerns.
And I completely understand those concerns. I'm more on the side of that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a fanboy. Who knows? But I've been following Starks and Big Bill for their entire careers. I'm a huge Ricky Starks fan. I'm a huge W Morrissey, aka Big Cass, aka Kaz XL fan, and just seeing again his whole journey from going through alcohol and substance abuse to getting back in shape, being clean, being sober, and then getting that big win, seeing him on top of the world. At least for now. Who knows if this is gonna be a long run or not? That remains to be
Mhm.
seen, especially now that the Young Bucks are in line for a shot at the belts. Which again, if I am more afraid that what they're going to do now is just give the Young Bucks the belts now in their first match against
Mhm.
Big Bill and Starks, and then now they're back as not only tag team champions but ROH trios champions with Hangman, and that to me is just too much. That's just too much.
Well, listen, I don't even think talking about that matters because they've already just to me they've already devalued those tag titles because they didn't do Big Bill and Ricky Starks any favors by having them win it that way because I still look at them and I say to myself, are they a legit tag team? Are they legit tag team champions? Do they deserve to be in that spot already? Like
Right.
to me, it's like AEW was stuck in a situation where they had to do something, and this was the best thing that they could come up with. And I understand that if that's what the case was. I just feel like it could have been, if you have to have FTR drop the tag titles, you could have done it. You could have done it in a better way. For that matter, you know, have them walk out on Collision and announce, that uh, Cash Wheeler's injured and he's got to have surgery. So they're dropping the tag, they're relinquishing the tag titles,
Right.
but they'll be back for them.
Yeah.
Let Dax Harwood go on a singles tear and put the tag titles up in a tag title tournament. If I'd have had 2 weeks or 3 weeks to watch Big Bill and Ricky Starks fight their way through a tag title tournament
Right.
and pull it off at the end, I would have thought 100 times higher of them as a tag team and as tag team champions than
Right.
I do doing it this way. So
Yeah.
I think, and part of the reason that I don't think they did that was simply because they've had a lot of bad luck and a lot of issues in the past over people having to relinquish their titles.
Yeah.
And
I
then
think
it,
they don't. I think they wanted to avoid that. I think they could have just dropped it at Wrestle Dream. I mean, I know that wasn't ideal, but say you drop it to, I think um, it was it against Aussie Open, right?
um,
Or am I mistaking myself?
no, I think it was,
Yeah, I think it was Aussie Open,
yeah.
and and even if it wasn't their time, you do, you know,
Well,
you
yeah,
it's on a bigger stage, it's on a bigger
yeah.
platform. Give them that rub,
Hmm.
then FTR can go off for a while, and you can either have Aussie Open hold the belts for a while, or then you have Starks and Big Bill climb up the ranks and then beat them for the
Listen,
belts, and then
for
you
that,
still have that
yeah,
big
for that matter,
win.
if you really want to put the titles on Big Bill and Ricky Starks, all you had to do was run some kind of angle where Big Bill and Ricky Starks get themselves into the match somehow, and now it's a
Right,
triple threat tag match, and you could have Big Bill and Ricky Starks pin Aussie Open to win the
right,
titles. That way, FTR never loses the titles. Now Cash Wheeler can go get his, recover from his injury or get his surgery, or whatever needs to be
yeah,
done. And that takes no steam away from FTR.
hmm
That now gives Big Bill and Ricky Starks a legit win that they could build off of, because
right,
now that gives them an instant program with Aussie Open, which is going to elevate them, because we all know how high AEW is on Aussie Open.
yeah,
I mean, we've been seeing them literally everywhere. So
yeah,
obviously they like these guys.
yeah,
So that could have been a really good feud for Big Bill and Ricky Starks. I mean, you could have had Aussie Open pin Big Bill and Ricky Starks, and then you could have had like the chase for the tag titles that would
yeah,
have, made Big Bill and Ricky Starks more of a complete team, building up to the point where they get to Aussie Open and now they take the titles from them.
right.
So
I feel
there's,
like the chase is more fun than the reign sometimes. I
mhm,
saw someone say it about Rollins is about anytime Rollins goes for the belt, they're so excited
mhm,
when he gets it, but then when he wins it, people want him to lose it. It's like
yeah,
because we want to see the chase more than the actual reign.
sure, sure, yeah,
The, you know
it's the
the chase is just as important as whoever holds the belt, right? So
Sure. And that's the case a lot of times when you see somebody that you really want to see win the title, and then you finally see them win the title, and that title Rain just doesn't live up to what was in your head.
Yeah. And then it just becomes, oh, he won it, but now I don't want him to hold it anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, just sometimes the chase is more fun. And I feel like when FTR do get better and Cash is back to full health, they will be on the chase again. And we'll be just as excited for the chase as they was for their long reign.
I'm hoping
Because,
that's what happens.
I think that's what's all about, is that, that chase, the hunt.
Yeah.
So,
well, one can only hope. But yeah, just, I mean, look at how long we're going on about some of these things. That just shows you like how big this week really was.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I don't think anybody intended in the beginning for it to be such a huge week in wrestling, but just all these things going down. It's and we talked about this maybe a week or two ago, where like I mentioned that, I'm more interested in the indies now than I am in these major wrestling promotions because they're just not holding my attention. But
right.
There are a lot of interesting things really going on right now. So I think we're at like a precipice for a point where things are going to really start to build over. And I think we're going to start seeing some new things along, some different landscapes. And I think it's really going to make things fresh. It's going to make things exciting. I think there's great things happening in both companies that,
Agreed.
Are gonna just build into something more. So, all I can say is enjoy tomorrow night, because tomorrow night's going to be a fun ride, no matter what happens. Treat.
I'm very curious to see what they do with Taker, because they're not referencing it like head on, but they are saying there were some interesting tunes at the end of that promo. They just keep saying that during the whole press conference. They were like, there were some interesting tunes. You mean the gong? You mean the obvious Taker gong?
Yeah. All right. So let me ask you this: are you going to watch Dynamite live, then watch NXT, or watch NXT live and then watch Dynamite, or are you going to try and go between the two of them?
I'm probably going to do what I always do and watch both. Like I did Saturday. I had AEW on the big screen, and I had Fastlane on my laptop. I'll probably have AEW on the big screen and NXT on the laptop, because NXT I am watching again. I'm starting to watch it again. I'm starting to get more invested into the storylines they have on there, and the wrestling is very good still.
Yeah, that I don't think that was ever in question. Like,
I think it's more with NXT. I think it's more like they're very hit or miss. Either it's amazing or it's just a cringe fest, and it's very hard to get in the middle of that.
Yeah,
fine line of good and bad with them.
Yeah,
so
I think AEW is going to be a good show from top to bottom. I think NXT is going to be a surprise show. I think there's going to be a lot of things that you're probably not going to see coming. So I'm interested to see. I think I'm more interested to see what happens on NXT. So I may watch NXT and then try and go back and watch Dynamite, because I know what I'm getting with Dynamite. I know it's going to be a great show. I know the wrestling's going to be good. I know there's going to be, probably great promos. I don't really see too many surprises coming out of Dynamite.
Right.
I do see more surprises coming out of NXT. So I think I'll be more interested to see what happens there.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, at this point, we're going to take a short break while you check out this message from our sponsor, Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles, and we will be back with our main event right here on Opinion City.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Introducing Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles, your ultimate destination for all things wrestling nostalgia. At Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles, they don't just sell items, they curate memories. Whether you're a fan of the classic era or modern showdowns, they've got something for everyone. Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles sells DVDs, books, magazines, action figures, and so much more. So stop on by Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles, where every piece tells a story and every fan becomes a part of the legacy. Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles is conveniently located inside Mother Tucker's Antiques and Collectibles, located at 566 North Reading Road in Ephrata, PA. Stop on by Thursday through Monday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Give them a call at 717-405-0153 or find them on social media at Ref Larry's WC. Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles is a proud sponsor of the Opinion City podcast. And now, back to the show.
All right, we're back here on Opinion City, and we want to thank Ref Larry's Wrestling Collectibles for being a proud sponsor of the Opinion City podcast. If you'd like to be a sponsor, please send us an email at opinioncitypod@gmail.com.
And you know what that means? It's time. It's time for our
the
main event. All right, main event time.
Oh yeah, we are doing again top 5 Undertaker Mania matches of all time in our opinion. Of course.
So I'm super excited for this. I will say that in my lifetime, I have personally witnessed 2 Undertaker WrestleMania main event matches.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen I have seen Undertaker and Kane at WrestleMania 20, and I've seen Undertaker and Shawn Michaels at 25.
Okay.
So
right.
It's seeing the Undertaker live is one thing because it is just a spectacle in and of itself.
Amazing.
But seeing the Undertaker live at WrestleMania is just a whole different moment. And I will say, just from a personal standpoint, the WrestleMania 20 match with the Undertaker and Kane, that was when Undertaker was first coming back from his American Badass gimmick, and he was
favorite match lead-ups in so long. I like So he was coming back to his Deadman gimmick for the first time in quite a few years, and at the beginning of his entrance at 20, and nobody knew this was happening, but all of a sudden you hear Paul Bearer's voice, and the arena goes insane because everybody knew he was coming back as the Deadman. Nobody knew he was coming back with Paul Bearer. That was a surprise, and people just lost their minds about that.
It was incredible. So the Undertaker's streak sadly ended when it did, and for me personally, it was something that should have gone on forever. It should have never ended.
Me and my friend repeatedly had a theory there where we said what should happen if the streak didn't end, right? What should happen is Taker, for like whatever match we want to consider the last streak match, right? We said make it a coffin match against whoever it is, whoever he's facing. And instead of doing the match, Taker just quietly takes off his hat and jacket, goes into the coffin, lays down, and shuts the door.
Well, that would have been interesting.
As in, I end the streak my way, I'm done. And he just closes the casket, lights go out, it disappears, it's over.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah,
that for years. How it would be cool that he lets himself go. And that's it.
Yeah, it's I mean, obviously, I don't know. I know there have been at least 2 wrestlers that I can name that have gone on record and stated that they were told that they were going to end the streak, and they both declined.
Yeah, because they knew the significance and power the streak had for Mania.
Yeah.
So they didn't want to see that go yet, and rightfully so.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that brings us into our top 5, and I'm pretty excited for this. I have to say that I had some real soul searching to do on this one because I had a number of matches I wanted to put in there, and a part of it was just reconciling myself with the order of the list too.
Oh, of course. Yeah, that's always the hardest part, is putting this one together.
Yeah.
This one took me a little while, but I think I'm very confident in my list.
Yeah, I would say I'm pretty confident in my list as well. All right, so why don't you lead us off here with your number 5?
My number 5 brings us to WrestleMania 21. The Legend Killer versus the Legend, being the Undertaker. I was a huge fan of the Legend Killer gimmick. I thought it was
Mm-hmm.
really cool that, he was also at this point the world's youngest world heavyweight champion. So he
Mm-hmm.
did have that moniker under his belt at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, he was only like 2 years into his run, like 3 years in, so he's still pretty much fresh. I feel like this match proved to everybody that he can be that main event star that he was born to be.
Yeah.
And he proved it in this match. The whole time he was obsessed that he wanted to beat the streak and really
Mm-hmm.
be the one that kills the Legend of the Undertaker. And he got some pretty good offense in the whole time. Like, it was a pretty even battle.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of the big spots was when Undertaker goes for that choke slam and he reverses it into an RKO out of nowhere. One of the earlier RKO out of nowheres that was just perfect.
Mm-hmm.
There was shenanigans with his father, Cowboy Bob Orton, tried to interfere by
Yep.
hitting Taker with the arm cask, and it didn't work. It was just a really fun, evenly paced matchup. And of course, Taker won with the tombstone.
Sure.
But it was a great match for both stars. And like you always say, it's not really about who gets the win, but about who gets over. And I
Mm-hmm.
think this is one of those instances where Orton got over.
Yeah, and I think this was really perfect for what Randy Orton was doing at the time, because it's like if you're going to do this Legend Killer gimmick, and
Right.
you're going to really play yourself up as the Legend Killer, you know after a while there's only one other place you can go with it,
Yep.
and that's Undertaker at Mania. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're going to consider yourself the Legend Killer, you are not the Legend Killer until you kill the actual legend. And that's
Yep.
and I thought it was great that like his dad was involved in the stuff. And
Yeah.
it just it as far as Undertaker matches go, and I will say this one is not on my list, but as far as Undertaker matches go, I feel like this is one of the I mean, for me, I would say this is like the top third of matches when you're looking at like big time match feel.
Yeah.
And I think this is probably, for me, like top third of the list again, when you're looking at like, if we were talking about like top 5 most credible chances to beat the streak, Randy Orton would have to be in that list, because
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you could look at that, and you could look at that match, and I mean, you could really see Randy Orton doing this, like, because for everything that they had done with Randy Orton, with him, at the time being like the youngest world champion, and all these, like, all the stuff that he got very early on in his career, and you're thinking to yourself, this could be the guy to do it. Like, this could be the one to beat him. So, I mean, definitely for me, one of the better matches that he's had. It was definitely a good match. And again, for me, I could honestly believe Randy Orton, could be the one to beat him. Obviously he didn't, but
they made a very good story to make you believe that, hey, this could be the one.
Yeah.
So
yeah, great start to your list.
All right, hit us with your number 5.
The start to my list is a little controversial, because
I
feel like, well, the thing is, like, some people wouldn't even consider this a match, but it had to be on my list.
Okay.
I had to go with the cinematic graveyard match from 36 with AJ Styles.
I would totally count that. That's totally worthy. I know it's not a match, but it was a match, and just an amazing pick.
I think for me, what that match did to change the idea of what wrestling could be, because again, you have to remember, everything had changed. We were in the middle of COVID. You were having WrestleMania in an empty arena, no fans.
Awkward.
And here you had the Undertaker, and again, there was no way that, like, there was no way that anybody on God's green earth was going to defeat the Undertaker in that type of match.
No,
but AJ Styles was such a big name, and part of it too, I think, was that WWE had brought AJ Styles in. They
Yep.
gave him the big debut at the Rumble, and
Mhm.
he got very big very quickly, but he also got very small very quickly too. Like
Right.
he fizzled out, I think, and by no fault of his own. That nothing against his talent, his promo work, his character, him as a
Yeah.
person. It's just things happened, and
Yeah.
he did not maintain that level of success. So I think a lot of people were surprised that AJ Styles was the guy who got the nod for this one.
Right.
But AJ Styles absolutely 100% proved himself to be worthy of every bit of that. Every moment
100%.
of this was great, from the Undertaker's entrance to his exit to the OG Bullet Club's involvement in the match. Fighting on top of the house, and just everything about it.
It was made so well. Just made very
Yeah,
well.
it was really done very well. And I know a lot of people are on the fence about the Firefly Funhouse match with Bray Wyatt and John Cena, which I
Love
absolutely
that
loved.
match.
That match
Love
was
that
incredible, but a
match.
lot of people are on the fence about that. But I think we would never have seen things like that had we not seen the graveyard match. I don't
Yeah.
think we would have seen like the arena stampede,
Yeah.
things like that. Like we wouldn't be as accepting as fans as we are with those types of matches if the first one that we really saw hadn't been done so well. That
Yeah.
thing is a masterpiece from beginning to end. It is
Very, very
more
good.
it is more
Very,
an
very
epic
good.
movie than a match,
Yeah.
but it accomplishes everything it needs to accomplish. And I think, it was kind of the perfect ride into the sun. Like
Yeah.
the ending where he just, rides off in the motorcycle.
It was
It
perfect.
wasn't the Dead Man. It wasn't the American Badass. It was just Mark Calloway as Mark
Yeah.
Calloway,
Pretty much. Yeah. It
which
was
was so
Marcus
great
Mark.
about it, because then you get this transition into where, he's inducted into the Hall of Fame, and he really embraces his role as Mark Calloway, the person who portrayed the Undertaker. When you
Yeah.
look at his Hall of Fame speech, his One Dead Man shows, all of these things are now highlighting him as Mark Calloway. And I don't think, if the graveyard match had not gone off as well as it did and got the reception that it did, we may
Yeah.
have never seen that from him.
Right.
So I think it changed a lot.
I would agree that whole time everybody had to adapt. We all had to think about the audience, what would keep them captivated without fans in the ring.
Yeah.
So, they had to turn to this new style of matches, and it worked. I mean, we all know who we had to thank for it, though. Broken Matt Hardy for even the idea
Yeah,
in the
well, of
first
course.
place.
Of course. How long
The innovator of
WWE
the cinematic match, if you will.
how long WWE fought like the whole Hardy family sort of dynamic there, and finally they embraced it. I don't think they ever did. I don't think they ever did Matt Hardy and like the Hardy versus much justice as Impact did, because what they did there was freaking phenomenal.
Was so good. It was so
But
good. Also
it kind of,
groundbreaking,
oh
I
yeah,
would say.
absolutely. But it also showed that WWE was now willing to at least think about it.
Exactly.
So yeah, you definitely have Matt Hardy to thank for a lot of this, because
Yeah.
the stuff they were doing in Impact was just, as you said, groundbreaking. There's no other word for it, because it
Yeah.
was just clearly amazing
Mhm.
and clearly led into this.
Yeah.
All right, very good. Let's get to your number 4.
My number 4 might be a little bit controversial as yours, not as
Oh,
controversial.
okay.
But I just think it's one that's very underlooked, if you will.
Is it?
Overlooked.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm talking Triple H, the real one, WrestleMania 17, when he faced the
Ooh.
American Badass version of the Undertaker.
Mhm.
I just feel like this one was overlooked because this was a great match. This one
Yeah.
had a lot of big spots. It wasn't no holds barred, but there was a ref bump, of course. So it went from there. You had that spot where the Undertaker choke slams Triple H off a platform.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, you have Triple H nailing with like at least 6 or 7 chair shots in a row, which just looked
Mm-hmm.
brutal, just insane. And of course, that's the match where they used a prop sledgehammer, only for it to hit him in the right spot to bust him open the real way, even though it was a
Mm-hmm.
prop.
Yeah. Not to mention, this was the match where Triple H came out, and Motorhead played him
Yep.
to the ring.
Motorhead played him live, so that felt
Mm-hmm.
like a huge deal.
Yeah, that
Um,
really did.
this was just a really great match, and the fact that when they rehashed the feud after Michaels and never mentioned this first match always kind of rubbed me the wrong way, because this
Mm-hmm.
was a really great match that did exist, it did happen, and it was great.
Yeah, for me, I feel like this is one of those instances where you have two wrestlers that have a series of matches and one of them just gets left by the wayside at some
Yeah,
point. Like, because you have other matches that maybe
just the same.
overshadow it in certain ways. But that doesn't mean that it's any less as important or as good.
Right.
This and I know this is a subject for another show, but I've got to say that there is a promo that Triple H does in the ring on SmackDown. I clearly remember he has the leather jacket with the denim vest,
Oh yeah.
and
Old school Triple H.
he's
Yeah.
calling out the Undertaker, where he's running down like the list of people that the Undertaker has taken out, and then he's like, you've never taken me out. Like it's
But it was a great story. It was really good.
it's a masterful promo. I really enjoyed it, and um, you know, it's hard for me to believe that this match is in the lore of the Undertaker as forgotten as it is, because I mean, for me, for my money, WrestleMania 17 is still the best WrestleMania of all time.
It's so good.
From
It's an
beginning to
amazing
end.
mania, yeah.
I mean, even some of the recent WrestleManias we've had have had moments of greatness that have outshined every other WrestleMania. But for me, from
Yeah.
top to bottom, beginning to end, every single match was just absolutely amazing. And it boggles me that this is as forgotten as it was, because this was a brutal match
It
for
was
what it was.
brutal. Yeah. It was.
Yeah.
I don't think it was as brutal as the second time when Taker was almost dead, but for the first in the trilogy, it was an amazing first match.
I'm hard pressed to think of another match, like a big time feel match like this, that really fought through as much of the arena as this one did. Like, they were
Yeah, they went
all over
everywhere.
the
Yeah,
place.
they
Yeah.
went everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, at one point you had you mentioned the choke slam off the scaffolding there. I mean, you had like the referee climbing the scaffolding, and like it was just insanity. There were cameramen out there trying to get up to the platform, and it
Right
was
after
just
that, I just remembered like it was yesterday. It just popped in my head. Taker then goes for an elbow drop off the scaffolding on Triple H. Right after that, like it just goes off the rails very quickly.
Oh yeah.
But in the best way possible.
Oh, it absolutely is in the best way possible. I mean, I think that I don't know. It just, to me, it had all the right storytelling. It had a great build up. It was kind of it was a different take on an Undertaker WrestleMania match, because I feel like this one was more American Badass than anything else, because it was really, hard hitting. It was kind of like, fighting the biggest guy in the prison yard.
Yeah, pretty much.
But yeah,
Pretty
I
much.
thought it was tremendous. I thought it was really great. Definitely a big part of what made that WrestleMania special.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That was a good pick. That one is also not on my list.
Okay. 2 for 2.
So
all right.
we're about to be 2 for 2 here. All right. So my number 4, for me, again, this is probably, if I think about my list specifically, this is the one match on my list that I believe, for me, is more believable that Undertaker could have lost here than really match on my list.
Okay.
And this is also for me. This is like a big time feel match for me.
Okay.
I feel like this match was set in a WrestleMania. It its moment in the card, everything about it just felt to me like it was a bigger than life deal. It was really, to me, what the streak really means. And so this was Edge and Undertaker from WrestleMania 24,
Okay.
because
Okay.
I mean, to me, this was just Edge. Edge had such a build up and such a journey to get to this match.
Absolutely.
And for me, it is, again, it might be a little maybe later in Edge's in his singles career.
Yeah.
But for me, there are moments where I mean, think about it from like, think about it from like the Sopranos point of view. Like,
Yeah.
you rob 20 suits off a truck and everybody's like, oh, that's a great thing. But you kill a rival mobster and everybody's like, oh, you're made.
Yeah.
And for me, Edge had been stealing suits off of trucks for a long time, and it had
Yeah.
been super great.
Yeah.
Like, he had his buddy Christian help him steal the suits for a while, but eventually he was like, you know what? I think I can steal the suits myself. And he did. And a lot of people got a lot of great suits from him.
Yep.
But then this was the moment where he killed the rival mobster. Like,
Yeah.
this was it. This was the moment that he was made. The match was so good. Just, back and forth. And honestly, I mean, you felt like every moment that Edge hit a big move and went for the pin, you were sitting on the edge of your seat, because to me, it felt like you could honestly believe like Edge was going to pull this off.
Absolutely. Let's dive into this, because guess what? This was my number 3 pick.
Nice.
So
Okay.
let's just dive into this.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do it.
Build into this on so many levels. Now, they didn't just build this as, title versus Taker, versus streak.
Mhm.
Edge also hadn't lost a singles match at Mania up to that point, so it was
Sure.
technically streak versus streak. It was for the World Heavyweight title. It was the first time that Mania went at the end and had Taker.
Mhm.
So it was his main event streak match, which is even
Sure.
a bigger deal.
Mhm.
You had all these different cards in play, and every time Edge would counter a move, they made it the biggest deal on commentary. Anytime he reversed a choke slam, a last ride, a tombstone, an old school, they put Edge over so much that, it made you believe Edge might actually have a chance to win the streak. And apparently Edge was one of the guys that was asked to do it, and he said no.
That is correct. Do you know who the other guy was?
Reigns?
No.
No, just a guess.
The other guy was the world's strongest man, Mark Henry.
Mark Henry, that's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I think that the fact that it was, title versus streak helped to elevate Edge's role in all of this.
Yeah.
But to me, like, once we hit that match, I don't think I had ever taken anybody as seriously as I had taken Edge, and I don't think anybody felt like I felt like people were stepping up their game to get to the Undertaker's level.
Absolutely.
And when you got to that match, I felt like Edge and Undertaker were already there. Like, Edge didn't have to step up. Like, he was, I mean, because he was, the absolute 100% slimy heel going into this. But but that's part of, like, Edge has many great layers to him, but that slimy heel version of him is
gritty. Yeah.
Because what's great about it is he's so good at it, but you also know that that's like the furthest thing from what he is. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Know that he is a complete different person, but the fact that he's so good at portraying that character, for me, it's like, when all the stars align, and it just it felt like there was no other way you could describe it than main event.
So
I mean, it's the definition of a main event. I could sit here. I could sit here and watch it
Yeah,
over and
it's
over again and never be disappointed.
no.
I know the ending, I know what's going to happen, and it still doesn't matter. Everything from the entrances to the atmosphere of WrestleMania 24. That outdoor atmosphere was just absolutely perfect
Crazy.
for this.
Yeah.
It's one of those moments in time where you'll look back at it and say, we'll probably never see a moment again like this where we have two stars that are so big that just aligned in such a great way in such a great atmosphere.
Right.
WrestleMania 24 is honestly one of my favorite WrestleMania arenas.
Oh yeah.
I think everything about it, because you think about it. I mean, this was Michaels and Flair
Yeah.
in the
Yep.
same show,
Yep.
and here we're sitting and talking about how great this was.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I love that that's your number 3.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's why I was like, you know what? Let's just mention it now because we're on the same page. But mine's just a
Yeah.
little bit higher. I think mine's a little bit higher just because the fact that, like I said, they've added all these nuances. You know, they added
Mm-hmm.
the belt, the streak, Edge's
Yeah.
streak, Taker's streak. It was
Sure.
on last. The fact that they put over Edge any chance they could on commentary. The fact that I think Edge was one of the first ones to kick out of the tombstone, other than like Kane.
Mm-hmm.
Which that they even made that a big deal that he kicked out of the tombstone. So
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
they made this feel as big as it actually was, and that's why it's a little
Sure.
bit higher on my list.
I understand.
So you're number 3.
Excellent. My number 3. All right. So how do we take something that was good and we make it great? Well, just like any recipe, we add some new ingredients into it.
Okay.
So my number 3 is Triple H and Taker from WrestleMania 28, the end of an era,
Okay.
which we all know it wasn't the end of an era.
No, it wasn't.
But
it was a good match though.
Think about this though. Let's think about 28, and let's think about the type of match that we were watching. You know, this Hell in a Cell Undertaker Triple H. You throw in Shawn Michaels, which was an absolute wild card to begin with, because I mean, we know the history between Triple H and Shawn Michaels. We know the history between Undertaker and Shawn Michaels. You remember all the Shawn Michaels' involvement in Undertaker's Bret Hart feud.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of history between all three of these guys.
Yep.
And I mean, think about a big time, big feel match like that is just this violent car wreck between two guys who, quite honestly, were past what they went out there and did.
Yeah.
They were at points in their career where they showed you why they were who they were, because they went and they found a way to turn it up to a notch that they should not have been able to turn it up to at that point.
They broke the notch. Put it that way.
They did.
They broke the notch.
They absolutely did.
You had the Hell in a Cell element, of course, which was already bad enough. They literally beat the snot out of each other the entire match. It was, I think, more brutal than the second time around. I say first, but it's the second time around.
Well, it probably was, just because of the type of match that it was designed to be. Like, it was built to be that way, because I think a lot of that violence, a lot of that hard-hitting nature of it was built to kind of mask some of the things that maybe, at that point in their careers, they really couldn't do as well as they used to. But that was fine though, because it's what you expect out of a Hell in a Cell.
And I think I loved that build up better, because it was this was the first time that we saw Taker without his long hair. They had they had that promo where you see him like chopping his hair off while doing a very like sinister promo to Triple H, because the whole story was he was embarrassed that even though he won, he couldn't leave the ring on his own. So so in his eyes, that win was a blemish on his streak that he wanted to fix, because in his mind, he didn't win because he wasn't able to walk out on his own after it was all said and done. So he went a little bit crazier than normal, shaved his head off. Well, in storyline, shaved his head off, went crazy, and then when they did the big reveal, everyone was stunned that he had a mohawk and his hair was gone.
Yeah.
And then obviously the wild card of all the things, Michaels as the referee. He got more involved than we thought he would.
Well, so here's my thing. We just got done talking about Edge, and we felt like, and this is the second. Well, this will be the third time we've done this on the list. Now we talked about Randy Orton
Yep.
and why it felt like Randy Orton could beat him. We talked
Yep.
about Edge and why it felt like Edge could beat him. So now here
Yeah.
you have Triple H, somebody who, does not typically lose big time matches like this very well.
Yeah.
He's a very bad loser. Um,
We all know that.
but you know we know that we've seen this before. We know we've seen Triple H and Taker before, and
Right.
so now WWE has to find a way to make it believable that Triple H could get through Undertaker, of all places, Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
And remember, Shawn Michaels has already beaten Taker in a Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
Your boy showed up that day.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But now they've got to make it seem like Triple H could actually somehow pull this off.
Yeah.
And that addition of Shawn Michaels, and even like the sweet chin music to Taker during the match, I will guarantee you that first time around, there's not one watches that match that doesn't see that sweet chin music and think that is it.
That's the end of the match.
That's it.
Game
Like, it
over.
has
Yeah.
to be.
Yeah. And then
But-
I think they had the whole HBK combo where he hits him with the super kick, and then Triple H hits the pedigree 1-2
Mhm.
ooh, and
Yeah.
it was like the longest 2 count ever.
Mm-mm. Well, and that's the thing, because WWE went so out of their way to make this believable, and then when Taker was finally able to overcome the odds, and then for me, like, the match was great. Everything about the match was great. Everything about it was really good. But the three of them walking out together, like,
Yeah.
you want to talk about, to me, that was the real end of an era there, because we'll never see something like that again.
Oh,
We'll
no.
never see
Never again.
three big superstars, larger than life wrestling legends. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day, and it hit me out of nowhere. And it was partly when I was thinking about this match.
Right.
If we talk about Mount Rushmores of wrestling, it is very rare that you hear somebody bring up Triple H or Shawn Michaels' name, because you have your Hogans, your Flairs,
Yep.
your Austins, your Undertakers.
Mhm.
I've heard people put Andre the Giant on there
Yeah.
just because of everything that they've done for the business.
Yeah.
But if you sit down and you think about, like, Triple H, well, what would qualify him to be on there? Shawn
Right.
Michaels, what would qualify him to be on there? And when you think about those things, you have to think to yourself, how are we leaving those people out of the conversation?
Yeah.
But we never bring them up. I
Yeah.
have heard this
Yeah.
debate hundreds of times, probably, and
Yeah.
I don't know that I've heard. I don't bring them up. I would not have automatically put them on my Mount Rushmore. But
Yeah.
it's moments like this that really show you, like, hey, what don't we have now? Triple H has had heart issues,
Yep.
and he's not wrestling. Shawn Michaels is at a point where he shouldn't be wrestling, and thankfully he is using his talents to the betterment of NXT superstars.
Yes. Yeah.
Taker, I mean, when you watch the Last Ride documentary and you understand what Taker has to go through to get one match out of him a year,
Yeah.
insanity.
It's crazy.
These are
It's
three guys
crazy.
that should not be wrestling. And this is a moment in time where the three of them have just together put on a performance that has to be considered, for me, that would easily be top 5 WrestleMania matches of all time. It would definitely be top 10 for most people. I would hope, because
I would hope to. Yeah.
Yeah, it does a lot for me, that moment. Just the three of them together. It's just, I don't know. There's just no words for it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Great pick.
All right. So we are down to your number 2.
Number 2.
And I'm excited to hear this, because I really honestly think that our number 1s are going to be the same.
I have a feeling.
I'll be surprised if they don't, but I will also be surprised if our number 2s aren't the same.
Well, my number 2, I almost made number 1, but I didn't want to feel biased because I was there at this one. This was my first Mania with my brothers, Mania 29 versus CM Punk. I was there, saw that live. That was really freaking cool. but it wasn't just about being there live. The
Mm-hmm.
build up, while sometimes a little bit tasteless, was very good because Paul Bearer
Mm-hmm.
had just passed away,
Mm-hmm.
and they used that as kind of like the crutch to the whole story very well. Again,
Right.
sometimes a little bit too well, but
Mm-hmm.
well nonetheless. You had Heyman come out as Paul Bearer the one night holding the urn. You
Mm-hmm.
had the Druids come out, and CM Punk was one of the Druids, and he dumps the ashes on top of Taker and beats him up with it.
Mm-hmm.
That was a little bit extreme, but the visual was just so good.
Mm-hmm.
You had um, him also have his theme played live, CM Punk.
Yes.
That was amazing. So again, that was another big fight feel to the matchup.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this one they made you believe that he was the one in 20-1. That was my
Mm-hmm.
favorite. That was like my favorite promo that he ever did was I am the one in 20-1, and I loved that. I loved that whole promo. I loved that phrase that they used throughout the
Mm-hmm.
entire storyline. I thought it was perfect.
Yeah.
You know, it was a very evenly paced matchup with both guys. You
Mm-hmm.
had Punk do the big stop where he elbow drops Taker on the unbroken table. It didn't break. Looked worse than it did.
Yes.
And also, I truly believe, and this might sound mean, but it's not, that this was The Undertaker's last great WrestleMania match before the streak ended.
So this is my number 2 as well.
Yay!
And I will say that even though it's not my number 1, I think that this is my personal. I couldn't put it as number 1, but it's my personal favorite out of
Yeah,
all of them.
same. It's
If
so
I
good.
had to pick one streak match to watch, it would be this one, just because there are a number of reasons. Number 1, I think this is some of the greatest promo work building up to a pay-per-view I've ever seen. I
Absolutely.
think that Paul Heyman's time with CM Punk and the part of it leading up to this match, I think honestly, for my money, is Paul Heyman's best work in WWE.
Also agreed.
I think CM Punk was amazing. I love CM Punk's gear for
Yeah,
this
looks
match.
very cool.
I think his entrance with the obviously being played to the ring, and his he has like the gray dojo hoodie with the purple accents on it, and like the whole thing was just phenomenal, and the match itself is really, really good. Now, what's interesting about this match is this match right here is the moment where, you know, CM Punk is a speeding bullet train and every wheel goes off every car.
Yeah.
Like, this is the moment where everything just goes straight to hell for CM Punk and WWE. Because this is the number 1 reason, no matter what CM Punk says, and I'm sure he said it at times as well, but to me, this is the number 1 reason why he ended up leaving WWE. This was the start of it all. This was his major gripe. And honestly, if you sit down and you watch WrestleMania 29, for as long as CM Punk has been over the years, CM Punk is 100% right about this card.
Yeah.
That should have been the main event.
Yeah, the matches after that match, I was there live. As soon as that match ended, the fans kind of fizzled out. Like, nobody cared anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think Triple H versus Brock followed that match, and it was just the crowd wasn't there. They were exhausted from CM Punk and Taker, and it was like the other guys had to top that, and they couldn't top it, and it was noticeable. Mind you, this is also the same Mania where Triple H pretty much burns his chest off because the ice goes right into his skin when it comes out.
Yep,
So he
the dry
has
ice.
like 3rd-degree burns on his chest during the match, which I know it wasn't as good, but props to him for wrestling. His skin is just burning off the entire time.
Yeah. So I will say that so I was actually in town for WrestleMania that year.
Right.
I did the Fan Access Festival
Oh, nice.
and
I wish.
I was in town for a little while. I was planning on going to the event. I was going to get tickets on StubHub because actually that's how I bought my WrestleMania tickets before.
Yeah,
So
same.
I had planned on doing that, and by the day of, I was just like, I had looked at ticket prices and I had thought about it, and I thought, you know what, I'm just gonna go home and watch it on pay per view. But I will say this much: I did get I went to the WWE store at MetLife Stadium,
Nice.
and I bought a T-shirt from that event,
Okay.
and the T-shirt I bought was the WrestleMania 29 exclusive, because every year they do T-shirts, like exclusive ones for all the big matches that you can only get at the shop.
Mhm.
I got the Undertaker CM Punk shirt. It is so freaking cool.
Nice.
It's got Taker on the front and he's doing his big pose in the back, and CM Punk is at the bottom doing his pose.
Nice.
Taker's logo's on one sleeve, CM Punk's on the other. It is so freaking cool, and then it's
That's
got the
very cool.
WrestleMania stuff on the back, because honestly, that is without a doubt my favorite Undertaker match, because it was just everything about it lined up so well. And
Yeah.
like you said,
Very
a
well.
lot of the stuff that they did, like, you know, how about let's give Paul Heyman some credit for doing a spot on Paul Bearer
Yeah, it was a
impersonation.
pretty good
Like
impression. Not gonna lie.
dressing up as him. Yeah, no word of a lie. It was good.
Yeah.
And it it did go over the line cringeworthy to a point, but that's what made it so special.
Yeah.
Like you saw a different side of CM Punk during this, and you saw a side of CM Punk that, like, you legitimately believed that CM Punk's only goal in this world was to beat the Undertaker.
Yeah, pretty much.
To me, I think that, to me, this is a better CM Punk than the CM Punk we saw on the lead up to him winning the title in Chicago and going home with it.
Right. Right.
I think this was just perfect.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So I mean, there's I don't think there's any doubt.
I don't think there's any doubt
Um,
here.
I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever. You know what
I'm just gonna come out here and say it, and then we can just talk about it. My number one is versus Shawn Michaels, the first one, not the second one, the first one. I hope we're on the same page here. We might not.
man. I'm shocked.
Oh, we're on the same page.
No, we are not
Oh!
at all. My number one is Undertaker versus Big Show and A Train.
Oh wow.
No, I'm kidding.
I was gonna say.
Of course my number one is Michaels the first time.
I mean, this wasn't even a
WrestleMania
question
25.
in my
No,
eyes. I mean,
it's not.
the second
There's
bout
no
was great and it had more at stake, but this one to me stands out as the better match of the two.
yes.
It's probably the greatest match in the history of WrestleMania, not just the Undertaker's matches, period. And it's sad because it outshines it so much that I don't even remember what the other matches on the card were. Like, I remember that match, and like, that's it. I think was that also the same Mania where? Oh no, that's something else. Can you name one match on that card other than that match?
Yeah. Jericho took on Roddy Piper, Jimmy Snuka, and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
There you go.
And the reason I bring that up is because Ricky the Dragon Steamboat came out and shocked the entire world by how good he was at his age.
Oh, he was so good.
So much so that the following night on Monday Night Raw, he was in an 8-man tag on Monday Night Raw, which I was at that Monday Night Raw as well.
Nice.
And that was just he was so good. Like it was just unbelievable how good he was. I'm trying to think if I know that there was a Money in the Bank match that year, and I remember specifically Finley was in that match because I remember Hornswoggle brought out a tiny ladder.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think. I mean, yeah, I'm very hard pressed to.
Yeah, this match is the one that stands out because I don't think we knew it at the time, but we were about to see greatness.
Oh yeah,
these two icons put on a match for the ages, And like this is the same match that had that scary spot where Taker goes for his patented dive. Michaels moves but brings the cameraman forward, and basically Taker lands on his head.
Yeah,
Thank
that
God
was
he
pretty
was
bad.
okay, but that was one of the big spots in the match. May I
Not
also add that this one had the entrance where Michaels was in the all white and Taker was in the all black, and it was just such a cool thing to see Michaels pull off the Undertaker, but dressed in all white. It's
yeah,
just
because
so perfect. So
the
perfect.
build up to it was Shawn Michaels getting very biblical and reading about the difference between the darkness and the light.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
Shawn Michaels did promos from a graveyard. Shawn Michaels held a funeral for the Undertaker,
Yeah.
and the Undertaker showed up in the casket, even though he wasn't in the casket to begin with.
Yeah.
And the buildup was just tremendous because Shawn Michaels actually did that white Undertaker outfit on Raw one night.
Yeah.
Like he did a promo with that, and so that entrance was just. I mean,
So
there's no
cool, man.
words for that
So
entrance.
cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
When
just.
when he's in the air on that like um whatever you want to call it, like elevator.
Oh yeah, it was like a lift coming
Yeah,
down from
lift,
the
and he
from the
and
ceiling
he
because it
comes down
was
from the light. It was just
yeah
so
it
cool.
was in
Just
contrast from like the Undertaker coming up from the depths. Like it
yeah.
was, yeah.
And this is just again this was a masterclass in pro wrestling with these two.
Yeah.
Like talk about they wanted to steal the show. They stole the show because their match is the most spoken about match of that entire Mania.
Oh
Is
yeah.
that
Yeah.
match?
Yeah. So just in comparison, just pulling up some of the matches from that show.
Okay,
Uh, you had CM Punk ended up winning the Money in the Bank, so
that's
that was
right.
one of his
That's
Money in the
right.
Bank
Yep.
wins.
Yep.
They had the terrible Miss WrestleMania Battle Royal,
Oh
which
yeah,
Santino
not
Marella
good.
won.
Just awful.
We had the Chris Jericho match, which we
Yeah.
talked about. Um, we had the absolutely, and this match was not bad. It's just this feud was bad, but we had Matt Hardy defeated Jeff Hardy in an Extreme Rules match because you remember
Right.
that was during that whole ill-fated thing where it was the feud between Matt and Jeff Hardy that just never felt right from the beginning.
Right.
It was terrible. The match was not bad. It just that feud fell flat.
Yeah, it was not good.
Rey Mysterio defeated JBL in like 20 seconds, and JBL quit.
Yeah, that was the whole his last match, and he was
Yep.
out.
And then we had the two world title matches. One was Cena versus Big Show versus Edge,
Okay.
and
Ooh.
then and this is a shame to me because I felt like this was another match that had a great build up. Triple H beat Randy Orton, and if you remember the Triple H Randy Orton build up, that's the one where um, Randy Orton DDT'd Steph in the ring with
Yeah.
Triple H like handcuffed to the ropes.
Yeah.
Triple H went to Randy Orton's house and beat him up, and like the build up to that match was really good.
That was one of those things where the build up was great, but the match was kind of not.
The match wasn't bad. I just feel like nothing on that. And again, I don't know if anybody knew it was going to be as big as it was, but
Yeah.
nothing came even close. Everything was
No.
just completely overshadowed by Michaels and Undertaker. Because when you got
Yeah.
done with that match, honestly, sitting there in that crowd, I knew right away that I had just watched the greatest match of all time.
Yeah.
Like,
You're also probably exhausted too after that match.
oh, that match reinvented what a false finish was.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That match was so good
Yeah.
because I'm telling you, that crowd 100%. Because you watch it back. I just made my wife Sonia watch it with me the other day,
There you
and
go.
you watch that match back, and that crowd 100% bit on every one of those. You
Oh yeah.
believed
Yeah. Yeah.
every
You
one of
thought that
those
this
was
might
the
have
ending
been,
of the match. Oh yeah,
like yeah, Michaels definitely was one that made you believe that okay, he could be the one that could. I mean, all of them
mm,
could in their own way, but
yeah,
at the same time, like
This was different.
Yeah, this was a different scenario.
And at this point, you didn't even care. Like you were watching this classic. And it was interesting you brought up that moment where Shawn Michaels pulls the cameraman in. Go back and watch this match. There's two things you want to look for. One that I didn't even see until Sonia and I watched it the other day. So first off, there is this huge crack sound that you hear when they collide.
Right.
And that's actually the cameraman landing on the camera.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
So that was bad for one. But just go back and watch that match before Michaels pulls the cameraman in. He has a hold of the ref, and he shoves the ref so hard into the barricade that the ref bounces off of the barricade. Like the ref in that match took a bump that nobody gives him any credit for, and it was amazing.
Yeah, I'll have to watch that back.
So good. We could sit here and talk about this match for hours because it's just
a classic. It's
just so good. But yeah, I think overall, even though we didn't have the exact same lists, I think that we really highlighted just some of the really great moments, and not just great moments, but how we continuously get the same type of thing where we really believe that somebody could beat the Undertaker, but we got it in such different and diverse ways that it made every match feel special. And that's part of what's so great about this streak, is not only just the amount of talents that were involved in this streak and just doing the things that they were doing, but also just the fact that the Undertaker could have such great matches with each of these people says so much about him as a performer.
Yep.
Yeah. So, all right. So this Monday night edition of Opinion City After Dark has been a blast. I'm glad we could finally make this happen, that we got through all our technical issues, and we made it through an entire episode. So, not only do we want to thank you for listening to the Opinion City podcast, but we also want to thank you for your patience, and thank you for sticking with us through 23 episodes so far. And as you've seen online, we've got a lot more coming. So check that out. You can find that on our socials. There's a whole list of our shows coming up, and it's going to be the end of this year. Yeah, the end of this year. We are ending with an absolute bang. So please, check that out on our socials. But again, we want to thank you for listening to the Opinion City podcast with myself, Ralph Heinmarch, and Parmesan Russell. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll follow us on social media at Opinion City Pod. And of course, tell your friends, family, colleagues, complete strangers. If you're at Subway getting a hoagie, tell them behind the counter, because honestly, you never know who you're going to tell and find out that they are a wrestling fan and they would love to listen to Opinion City. And I had that exact experience this weekend where I told somebody that I never would have thought was a wrestling fan. So tell everyone you can about Opinion City, and please like, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Be sure to check out our previous episode and let us know your opinions on those, as well as this week's topic. Check us out on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on Threads, anywhere you can find social medias at Opinion City Pod. This has been a Mancast Network production, and we will see you guys next time.
This is Ultimo Ann here. You're listening to Opinion City Podcast. Thanks for tuning in.